We're now ready to bind off our splatter paint scarf or wrap. And I wanted to show you a couple different things with the bind off. You're welcome to use any bind off you want, but I wanted to share with you one that I have found to be pretty slick and pretty easy, and it makes a nice stretchy bind off. To do that, we've completed our last wrong side row. And so on the right side of the fabric, going to knit the first stitch, and normally what we do is knit that second stitch, pass the first stitch over, and continue on that way. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes that makes a pretty tight bind off. So a method I learned is to pretty much do the same thing, except hold that stitch on the needle as you pass that stitch over and then release it. I'll do that one more time. Knit like you normally do. Hold that stitch onto the needle, reach around and pass that the last stitch over. For throwers, we're going to knit the stitch, hold that stitch on the needle, and pass this stitch over. That allows you to hold just a little bit of extra yarn into that stitch and makes it a little stretchier than it normally would. And I use this for just about everything I bind off, unless I use like a lace bind off or something special. Okay, and let's see if we can see how stretchy this is. Little bit. We don't have much on the needle. Now, when I was working this, I didn't especially like the way the knit bind off looked, because you can see the V stitches from the right side. So I tried binding off with purl to see if I liked it any better. So let's do a few of those, and you can do the exact same thing. Purl your stitch, hold it on with your finger, pass that stitch over. Purl, hold it on, pass that stitch over. Purl, hold it on, pass that stitch over. Now let's try it for throwers. Purl, hold that stitch on the needle as you pass your last stitch over. Purl, hold it on the needle as you pass the last stitch over. Okay, and let me do a couple more, and I want to show you one more trick. Well, actually two tricks, and then we'll see if we can see the difference. Now, when I finish a project, you know how that last stitch kind of is elongated and kind of looks sloppy, and you kind of have to fix it when you weave in the ends. Okay, one thing you can do to prevent that, there are actually two things. One is to come down here, and that running stitch between those last two stitches, lift that up onto the needle and then stitch those together. Oops. Oops, I want to leave that on. And pat. Well, leave it on the needle and pass that over. and then you simply pull. I don't want to cut it because I want to take it out and show you another one. You just pull that up, and it's much tighter than normal. Okay, the second way to do that same thing, and I kind of prefer this other way if I can get it back on here. Okay, I don't want that extra running thread on there. Okay, there's my last stitch, and let's get this positioned correctly. Okay, when you get to that last stitch, and I'm going to do this purlwise, but you can certainly do it knitwise too. So slip this stitch over onto your right needle, come around here and see this stitch below. You come in from the back and lift that onto the needle. So you have both of those on there. And then you purl those 2 stitches together. Well, if you can purl those 2 stitches together and pass that stitch over. And it really tightens that up. And instead of running this through, which makes an extra stitch, just pull your yarn up and cut it, and you have a nice corner on there. Okay, now let's look at our stitches. Here are the knit stitches, and here are the purls. So whichever one you like best, I thought the purl matched the beginning of the scarf better. However, the knit stitch is probably easier, so whichever one you want to do is perfectly all right. I have bound off in purl on mine, but it's totally up to you. So I hope that helped you with the bind off and you learned a new trick. Happy knitting!